One.
Hi, I'm Victoria Goslin, a graduate student at University of Maryland, University College, and I'm here to talk about learning communities. A strong online community, or any learning community really, keeps students engaged with the content, pushes them to think critically and articulate their ideas, and provides a supportive environment to do that. Well, what is a learning community? Simply, it's just a group of people who come together to learn and grow. Whether it's a third grade class like I teach, high school class, or a college course, and anything in between. So what exactly does my learning community look like this year? I do teach third grade currently in a public school. I have 2 classes as my grade level is departmentalized, so I teach the reading, writing, and social studies. Both my classes have 23 students. Class A has 13 English language learners, 9 boys and 14 girls. Class B has 14 ELLs, 16 boys and 7 girls. The consistent instructional practices that you'll see within my classroom: whole group instruction, guided reading small groups, writing workshop using the program Writing Fundamentals, flexible groups, and centers during guided reading and flexible group time. When it comes to technology in my classroom, my school is a Title I school. Therefore, the Title I department had an initiative to have a 1-to-1 Chromebook ratio for students to use in school. Due to the high poverty student population at my school, home accessibility is inconsistent with my students. When it comes to a learning community, there are 3 critical elements that I found laid out very nicely in Learning Solutions magazine article that I read online. There needs to be a social presence, a cognitive presence, and a teaching presence. First, let's talk about social presence, as I simply define as the atmosphere and climate of a learning community that sets the tone for the students in the course. The Learning Solutions magazine article, Building an Online Learning Community, has great input when saying, when social presence is high, learners are more satisfied, perceive the instruction as more effective, and their achievement is improved. Lack of social presence can lead to high level of frustration, disengagement, critical attitudes towards instruction, and lower levels of learning. Summed up, we need to keep social presence high and keep the learners satisfied. How can you boost the students' social presence? Provide an opportunity for socialization. Digitally, it would look like an open discussion board where students can talk freely. Similarly, this is to when students arrive in the morning and they talk to one another before we actually switch classes. Also, another way to boost their social presence and that feeling of satisfaction is to allow students to express themselves. When using the Chromebooks in the classroom, when being online or on a computer, giving the students the opportunity to choose fonts and text color allows them to customize their work and really make it feel like it's their own. Of course, there are some guidelines, don't use yellow, it doesn't print well, and you can't have super, super fancy fonts, but they still enjoy it, and they pick up on those customization features very quickly. And this is comparable to how each student just writes differently and has their own way that their written handwriting looks like. And then there's cognitive presence. Cognitive development ensures students are learning the necessary concepts and, of course, skills, the content of the course. The same Learning Solutions magazine article broke it down simply Cognitive presence takes learning beyond basic knowledge and into deeper understanding, application, and appreciation. As an educator, higher order thinking, critical thinking, those are all things that we need our students to do, and we're constantly trying to get them to do. We're in an age where we have to get beyond the basic knowledge. They also had an interesting series of events to help with the cognitive presence, having a triggering event, and it could be as simple as having a discussion board post where students are presented with some kind of prompt or open-ended question to get them thinking. Then going into exploration, and this might look like where everyone is putting their inputs and their thoughts together in the discussion board. Synthesis, of course, taking, a bunch of different ideas and putting it together. And that would be like where commenting comes in play, where you're taking your ideas and you're commenting on someone else and you're kind of formulating new thoughts. And then that ends in resolution, where you have had a better sense of learning after taking what you learned, applying it with what someone else is saying, and maybe even getting a totally new perspective that you hadn't thought of before. How can you improve your students' cognitive presence? Well, first, create a level playing field where all voices can be heard. Especially like in a face-to-face classroom where it might be whole group instruction, or even if it's small group instruction, you're only calling on, a sample of students. You're not seeing or hearing everybody, because you have to keep the pace of your lesson going on. But with an online learning community, if there's a discussion board and you have the requirement that everyone needs to post something, then you're able to see and really get a true picture of what the child or the student has to say and what their perspective is on a topic, and if they need more support from you. You can also improve some cognitive presence by organizing collaborative group work for your students to do. It's the same kind of in a face-to-face classroom, and it could be done digitally, but when they're working together, again, they're putting their perspectives out there, they're listening to someone else's, and that might even inform their thinking into something new. And of course, doing this digitally, you might be able to use Google Slides. Smart Amp is another program that I know very well. And there's, Glogster, and there's so many things out there that can help organize collaborative work. You can do Prezi. There's a ton out there. And also, another way that I thought of to improve student cognitive presence is this activity to incorporate all voices and collaboration. So to get that level playing field with all the voices, but then stepping it up with a level of collaboration. Throughout my readings this week, I remember one of the articles that talked about, taking that whole class, which can be overwhelming to, respond to everybody, especially if it's like 25, 30 students, and then breaking them into like 4 to 6 people groups. And so my thought behind that had me thinking, if you organize the class into small groups for discussions, like for the post or whatever, they all would need to post and share their initial thoughts. And I guess I see this more as a blended opportunity where their initial responses go into the computer, and then their group members can see it. And then face to face, and this is where the blended part comes in, they can be discussing, and it could happen online. It would just be a little bit harder, especially for, third graders. But from their digital responses in a discussion board where each group member has to complete a post, it could either be that same lesson or maybe a follow-up lesson the next day. They would need to discuss what everyone said and come together to formulate a single response, and then that could be what the teacher sees. And of course, the teacher would have access to what each individual had said, but that way they're working together and they're collaborating and they're synthesizing.